Hey, this is an activity that you can do that's all about changing perspective. Now, this activity requires a couple things. It requires a piece of paper and a pen. And it can be a lot more beneficial if you do it in a group. So, like as a family or as a small group activity at work or, in whatever setting. But you can do it by yourself too. Also, it's really effective if you use animals or people as the source of which you are observing. And I'll explain this more in a second. But you can also pick an inanimate object to do this with. So what you do is what you're going to do is you're going to observe something or someone or a group of someones. We did this in my former practice with horses. We would have clients, or even just one client, go into an arena and observe a herd of horses. And what we would do is we would ask them to stand a certain distance from the horses and record what they saw in terms of horse behavior. Then after a couple, 3 minutes, we asked them to move closer to the horses and then write down again what they observed. And after a few more minutes, closer. And then finally, go right up to an individual horse and again record your observations. So you can use animals, you can use a group of people, you can do this kind of, I don't know about you, but sometimes it's fun for me, like at an airport or a place where there's a lot of people to people watch. Well, you can do this activity in that kind of a setting. But you can also take an inanimate object. So you can take something in your home and say, I'm going to write down my observations about this. And have fun with this. So what you do is you take that object, whatever it might be, okay, anything, and you can move a distance away from it and set the timer for 1 or 2 minutes and write down everything descriptively about that inanimate object. Then set the timer again for a couple more minutes and half that distance, get half as close, okay, or twice as close. Do the same thing, write down everything you can. What do you notice differently about the object now that you're a little closer to it? Couple more minutes, get even closer, half that distance again. After a couple minutes each time until you're finally up close and really seeing it from the closest perspective that you can give. You can also, depending on the size of the inanimate object, you can change your perspective by getting underneath it. Set it up on something and get underneath it. What do you see differently now when you're underneath that object? Or put it down and stand over it. Get on a chair if you want to really change your perspective. Each time you do that, write down what you see. One thing that we noticed when we did this activity with horses is that people really used a lot of labels. They would label the horses as bossy or controlling or dominant. So if you do this activity observing animals or people, pay attention to that because that's really interesting information. Like how many times is our perspective riddled, that's the word I want, riddled with labels. And if we changed the labels that we used, it might change our perspective. Now, you might not find that you do that with an inanimate object, but that's okay because every time you change your perspective or the view from which you're seeing the object, you're still changing your perspective. This can be a really useful, even powerful tool for realizing that distance matters in how we see something. How close are we to it? Maybe we need to move further away. Maybe we need to move closer. Maybe we need to change the view, the angle that we see this from. So have fun doing this activity. Get some friends involved, get your family involved, and then talk about it. That's the benefit of doing this as a group activity, is that you get to have a discussion afterwards about What did you write down? What did he or she write down? What did you learn from changing your perspective up? Okay, have a great time doing the exercise.